told her friend how she regrets her marriage with me while I kept listening.
So I'm not a big Reddit poster, but after what happened to me, I had to share it somewhere. I feel like I've been thrown into some twisted movie plot. It had been a stressful week at work, so I decided to take a little break, treating myself to a hot cup of coffee at Nordlys Cafe, a small place I'd come to love in Oslo. The vintage wooden tables, dim lighting, and faint aroma of freshly ground coffee beans always provided me a comforting escape from the hustle and bustle of the city. After placing my order at the counter, I found a cozy corner spot by the window, giving me a panoramic view of the Oslo streets. As I waited for my coffee, I started getting lost in thoughts, watching people pass by and wondering about their stories. Maybe it's silly, but I always felt everyone had a secret, some hidden tale they weren't sharing with the world. As I was lost in this thought, my ears caught onto a familiar voice. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but when I looked over, there she was. Lyria, my beautiful wife. She was seated a few tables away, laughing with someone. That someone was Juna, her closest friend from college. A small smirk formed on my lips. I thought about how I could surprise her, maybe send over a dessert or just pop by their table for a quick hug. But something stopped me. Something about their hushed tones, the way Juna kept looking around as if to ensure no one was listening. My heart started racing as I realized that Lyria hadn't seen me yet. I leaned back into my chair, carefully hiding behind the menu. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then I heard it. My name. I don't know, Juna. Sometimes I feel like I made a mistake with Zephyr. My heart sank. The words hit like a punch in the gut. I wanted to shout, to stand up and ask her directly what she meant. But my body froze, and I continued to listen, hoping against hope that I'd misunderstood or that there would be some clarification. But what followed only confirmed my fears, hinting at secrets, betrayals, and a life I didn't know my wife was living. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you confront her immediately or try to gather more evidence? I'm lost, Reddit. Edit. Thank you for the supportive comments. I never expected this post to get so much attention. I'll keep you updated on what unfolds next. Okay guys, first off, thanks for all the comments and DMs from my last post. I'm still trying to process what I heard, but here's an update from the cafe. So there I was, heart pounding in my ears as my wife's voice continued to float over from her table. The atmosphere in Nordlys Cafe shifted for me. What was once a haven now felt like a trap. Every tick of the wall clock felt deafening. Every sip of coffee tasted bitter. Juna, Lyria started, her voice a mix of sadness and desperation. Do you remember that trip I took to Bergen a few months ago? Juna nodded, giving her an encouraging look. Yeah, the business conference, right? Lyria took a deep breath, her fingers playing with the napkin on the table. There was someone there. His name's Thane. I could hear Juna gasp softly. Lyria, are you saying... Lyria bit her lip, hesitating. I don't know how it happened, Juna. One evening, after a session, a group of us went out for drinks, and that's when I met him. He's charismatic, funny, and seemed so interested in my thoughts, my dreams. I was trying hard to hold back my emotions, but hearing her talk about this Thane guy with such fondness, I felt like a dagger was twisting in my chest. This couldn't be happening. Not Lyria. We had shared our dreams. Our love story was the stuff of fairy tales. Or so I had believed. Juna's voice brought me back. But you and Zephyr, you two seemed so perfect. Why would you even think about someone else? Lyria looked down, her voice barely audible. Sometimes, Juna, life isn't about the perfect moments. It's about the real ones. With Zephyr, everything has become so routine, so predictable. With Thane, even for that short time, it felt alive. Now, I'm not proud of this, but at that moment, I was fuming. I wanted to rush over, confront her, ask her how she could do this to us, to our love. But instead, I hid. Behind that damned menu, my shield from the cruel reality unfolding before me. It was a mix of fear, disbelief, and not wanting to make a scene. Reddit, I need your advice again. How do I approach this situation? I don't want to lose my wife, but I can't live with this secret either. Is there a way to heal, to rebuild trust, or is it already too late? Hey, it's me again. Thanks for the flood of responses on the last update. I can't believe how many of you are invested in my mess of a life. I've read through every single comment, and your support means the world to me. Here's what happened next. It had been a few days since the cafe incident, and the tension at home was palpable. Lyria and I had started to drift, our conversations reduced to mundane pleasantries. I wanted to confront her, but every time I looked into her eyes, I was scared of what I might find. One evening, she was out, probably with Juna again, or so she said. After pacing around our apartment, debating with myself whether to snoop or not, curiosity got the best of me. What if there were more secrets she was hiding? I needed clarity. I needed the truth. With every intention to clear my doubts, I started with the obvious places: her desk, her nightstand. Nothing. But then, a small bulge in the corner of her sock drawer caught my eye. My hands shook as I pulled out a sleek black phone, something I'd never seen before. It was a model unfamiliar to me, and it wasn't password protected. Hesitantly, I began scrolling. Messages, photos, voicemails, a treasure trove of memories. But not ours, hers and Thane's. Messages filled with affectionate emojis, secret plans to meet up in hidden corners of Oslo, and even mentions of a cozy cabin in the Lofoten Islands. Pictures of the two of them laughing, toasting drinks, him giving her a delicate necklace. My vision blurred, tears forming. One message stood out, sent from Thane. Can't wait for the day we can finally be together, without hiding. Love you. The air in the room felt suffocating. I felt like an intruder in my own home, viewing glimpses of a life I wasn't a part of. The weight of betrayal pressing down on me was overwhelming. Reddit, I'm broken. Finding that phone. It's like every fear I had came true. I know I invaded her privacy, and that's not cool. But the magnitude of her deception. I don't know if we can bounce back from this. How do I even begin to address this with her? Is it time to walk away? Edit. I've read suggestions about seeking therapy or counseling. It might be a good idea. Also, thanks to those who've shared their own stories of betrayal. Makes me feel less alone in all of this. I'll update soon. So, after discovering the phone and reading through all those messages, I realized I needed answers. But before I approached Lyria, I felt it was necessary to speak with someone who knew the whole story. That someone was Juna. I texted her, asking if we could meet at the city square near the grand statue of King Christian IV. It's a place bustling with tourists and locals, but I figured the open space might diffuse the tension. She hesitated at first, but after a while she agreed. As I waited for her, my anxiety levels skyrocketed. Each passing second felt like hours, and then, amidst the crowd, I spotted her. With a deep breath, I approached. Juna, I began, my voice shaky. I know. She looked taken aback. Know what, Zephyr? Why did you want to meet? I said, don't plague Miss Juna. I overheard you and Lyria at the cafe, and I've seen the phone. Juna's face paled, and she fidgeted with her fingers, a nervous habit I remembered from our college days. Zephyr, it's not what you think. Really? Because from where I stand, it looks pretty damn clear. I snapped, anger and pain evident in my voice. Juna hesitated for a moment before letting out a deep sigh. Look, I won't deny it. I knew about Lyria and Thane, but it's not my place to say anything. I was trying to be a good friend. I scoffed. A good friend? By hiding the truth? By watching as my marriage crumbled? She looked down, her eyes glossy. I thought you deserved to know, Zephyr. That's why I let Lyria talk that day at the cafe, hoping you might overhear. My eyes widened in shock. So you knew I was there? She nodded slowly. Yes, but understand this. It was all out of concern for you. I wanted you to find out, confront the situation, maybe even save your marriage. I felt a rush of mixed emotions. Anger, betrayal, sadness, confusion. Everything was overwhelming. So Reddit, here's where I'm at. Juna claims she had my best interests at heart, but can I really trust her? And what do I do about Lyria? The more I dig, the more convoluted this all becomes. Hey Reddit. First off, I can't thank you enough for the continued support and advice. With everything that's been happening, I found myself reflecting on the past, back to the days when everything was simpler. I felt like sharing a bit of our history might give you all, and maybe even myself, some more insight into what went wrong. Rewind to the early 2000s in Tromsø, a picturesque town with its midnight sun and aurora borealis. The place where our story began. Lyria and I were both attending the same high school. It was the sort of school where everyone knew everyone, and the crisp Arctic air filled our lungs with dreams and aspirations. Our story, classic. We were in the school's drama club, preparing for a rendition of Romeo and Juliet. Guess who played the star-crossed lovers? Yep, us. As cliché as it sounds, our onstage romance blossomed into real-life affection. Our dates comprised late-night walks under the auroras, sharing dreams of a future together, holding hands and feeling like the world was at our feet. With her sun-kissed hair and radiant smile, Lyria was the talk of our grade, and she chose me. We had our fair share of ups and downs, of course. Jealousies over co-stars in other plays, petty high school politics, disagreements on our future directions. But we overcame them all. By the time graduation rolled around, we were inseparable. The golden couple of our year. Everyone thought we were destined for each other, and for the longest time so did I. However, there was this one incident that has been nagging at me lately. Senior year, a rumor went around that Lyria had been seen at a party, getting a bit too close to a guy from the year above. I confronted her, and she cried, swearing it was a misunderstanding, and I believed her. But now, with everything unraveling, I can't help but wonder, was our love story always built on shaky ground? Was I always wearing rose-tinted glasses? There you have it, Reddit, a glimpse into our past. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, was it all just a facade? Did the cracks appear long before I noticed them? It's hard seeing your treasured memories in a new, dubious light. Reddit, it's me again. I need to get something off my chest, something I never thought I'd share. It's about a night I spent with an old friend, Alina. The weight of Lyria's secrets and Juna's revelations felt like a noose tightening around my neck. One evening, needing to clear my head and find solace in something familiar, I headed to our favorite pub in the city, the Northern Lights. To my surprise, seated at the bar with a glass of wine in hand, was Alina. We'd been close friends back in university, sharing classes, laughs, and life's ups and downs. But over time, with commitments and life's chaos, we drifted apart. "Zephyr!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. It's been ages. We caught up on life, and the more we talked, the clearer it became that she knew nothing of my marital struggles. There was a comfort in that innocence, a break from the reality I was drowning in. Several rounds in, Alina's gaze shifted. "You know, Zephyr," she began, her voice soft and hesitant. "I always thought you and I, well, we had something. A spark, maybe? I had feelings for you, but you were so in love with Lyria, I never acted on them." I was taken aback. This was a side of Alina I never knew, a chapter of our history I'd completely missed. The evening grew late. The pub's ambiance shifted to a soft, dreamy hue. Vulnerabilities unveiled, and in a mix of alcohol, nostalgia, and a desperate need for connection, we found ourselves in her apartment. The morning sun brought clarity and guilt. As I woke up beside Alina, memories of the night before hit me like a tidal wave. What had I done? Reddit. I've made a mistake. I'm not proud of it. I never imagined myself in this situation. Now I feel I've stooped to Lyria's level. How do I deal with this guilt? Where do I go from here? Edit. To those who've been in a similar situation, your stories are helping me process. To others passing judgment, I get it. I mess it up. I'm only human, trying to find my way through this mess. Hey Reddit. Things have taken a turn that I didn't anticipate. Remember the phone, the secrets, and the betrayal. It's time for some raw truth. Last night, Lyria approached me, her eyes swollen from crying. "Zephyr," she began, her voice trembling. "I can't keep this hidden anymore." My heart raced, preparing for the storm. "Go on," I prompted. She took a deep breath. "Yes, I've been seeing Thane. But it's not as simple as you think. I felt trapped in our marriage. It wasn't because of you or anything specific you did. It was the weight of our past, the weight of being the golden couple. It's as if we were stuck in a narrative we never truly wrote for ourselves. Every choice I made was always in relation to us, never just for me. I was struggling to keep my composure, my mind flashing back to our high school days, our promises, our dreams. "Why Thane?" I managed to ask. She sighed. "With him, I felt free, Zephyr. No baggage, no expectations. It was an escape." I felt my anger surge. "So you just ran away? Instead of talking? Instead of trying?" Her face hardened. "Zephyr, I did try. I tried to talk to you about my dreams, my aspirations. Every time I spoke of wanting something different for myself, you'd brush it off or change the subject. I felt unheard, invisible." The room was thick with tension, unsaid words, and years of emotions. The pain was evident in both our eyes. Reddit, I'm lost. Part of me understands her, while the other part feels completely betrayed. Was I so engrossed in our shared past that I failed to see her present struggles? Were we both to blame? I don't even know where to begin picking up these pieces. I was heading to the market when my phone buzzed. It was Juna. "Can we meet?" she texted, a hint of desperation in her words. Curious, I agreed, and we settled on the local park where the memories of my past confrontations seemed a world away. The moment I saw her, I knew something was amiss. She looked uneasy, shifting from foot to foot. "Zephyr," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "there's something I haven't told you." I raised an eyebrow, bracing myself for more drama. "What is it now?" Juna took a deep breath. I orchestrated all of this. I introduced Lyria to Thane. The revelation caught me off guard. "Wait, what? Why?" She looked down, her face a canvas of guilt and regret. "I've always been envious of Lyria. She had everything I ever wanted, a successful career, you, a perfect life. And I wanted to create chaos, to see if she'd crumble under pressure." My mind raced, trying to piece together her motives. "So, you knowingly introduced her to Thane, betting on an affair?" Juna nodded slowly. "It was a game to me. I never thought it would go this far. But seeing your pain, your marriage unraveling, I can't keep this to myself any longer." I was livid. "You played with our lives, Juna. For what? Some twisted sense of satisfaction?" Juna looked up, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Zephyr. I let my envy and bitterness take over. I never realized the consequences." Reddit, I'm at a loss. Another betrayal, another knife in the back. Is anyone truly trustworthy anymore? Was Juna's confession genuine, or is there more lurking beneath the surface? Reddit, it's been a while since I updated. I wish I could say things have improved, but the truth is, I feel more lost than ever. In the aftermath of Juna's shocking confession, I felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. Every familiar face, every corner of Oslo seemed like a haunting reminder of the betrayals and lies. My trust had been shattered, not just in Lyria, but in everyone I held close. So I began distancing myself. Slowly, I cut ties with friends, co-workers, anyone who had even the slightest connection to the past events. I'd roam the streets of Oslo, hoping the brisk, cold air and the city's beauty could drown out the chaotic thoughts swirling in my mind. One particular day, as I aimlessly wandered near the Oslo Opera House, its magnificent structure reflecting on the still waters, a thought crossed my mind. How did I get here? I began retracing the steps of my life, from the highs of high school with Lyria to the lows of her betrayal and Juna's confession. The more I thought, the more I felt trapped in a cage of my own making. My heart yearned for connection, but my mind was too scarred to trust again. Sitting on the edge of the fjord, watching the water ripple gently, I wondered if there was any way out. Any way to rebuild, to trust, to love again. Reddit, I'm stuck in this loop of pain and isolation. How do I pull myself out? How do I find myself again amidst this turmoil? Edit. Reading your messages of support and empathy has been a glimmer of hope. I never realized how many of you have faced similar heartaches. Maybe there's light at the end of this dark tunnel. I'll keep pushing through, one step at a time. Reddit. This will likely be my last update. The weight of everything has settled heavily on me, and the biting chill of an Oslo winter mirrors the coldness I feel within. The snow began to fall softly as I made my way to the fjord. Each flake seemed to absorb the ambient city lights, transforming the dark night into a luminescent wonderland. As mesmerizing as it was, the beauty couldn't mask the piercing cold. Standing at the edge, the water looked dark and inviting. I watched as tiny snowflakes met the surface, their brief existence melting away. Much like the fleeting moments of happiness I'd experienced, I couldn't help but draw parallels between the tranquil yet treacherous icy waters and my life's journey. There was a deceptive beauty to it all. The love, the betrayal, the heartbreak. From the passionate days of youth in Tromsø with Lyria, to the dark twists and turns that life threw at us. I wanted answers. I yearned for closure, some sign that the pain and confusion would eventually make sense. But sometimes, life doesn't give us the closure we seek. Sometimes love stories don't have fairy tale endings. As the snow piled on, the cold seeped deeper into my bones. A numbness began to take over, first my fingers, then my heart. Maybe this was how it was meant to end, not with a bang, but with the silent, cold embrace of an Oslo winter night. For those reading, please remember, life is complex and unpredictable. Cherish the moments, learn from the heartbreaks, and always seek help when you feel lost. Edit. If anyone out there feels this way, please talk to someone. Life has its ups and downs, but you never have to face them alone. There are helplines and communities ready to support and listen. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be posting here, especially about something this personal. But here I am. I guess I just need to get this off my chest. You ever have one of those mornings where you wake up and something just feels off? That was me on that fateful day. The birds outside our window were still chirping. The golden hue of dawn was peeking through the blinds, but something just wasn't right. My eyelids felt heavy as I blinked the sleep away, adjusting to the semi-darkness of our bedroom. Stretching, I turned to where my wife, Serafina, usually lay curled up beside me. But instead of the sight I was accustomed to, her wrapped up in her baby blue nightgown, I saw her oddly half-dressed. It looked like she had started to change into her day clothes but gave up midway. Her blouse was on, but it wasn't buttoned all the way, and her jeans were tangled around one ankle. Her other foot still had a sock on it. I blinked a few times, wondering if I was still dreaming. "Sarah?" I mumbled, voice groggy from sleep. She seemed a bit startled, almost guilty, as she looked at me. Her usually vibrant hazel eyes looked a bit distant. "Oh, hey," she replied, her voice sounding a bit out of breath. "Why are you dressed like that?" I asked, trying to sit up, the sheets wrapped around me. She hesitated for just a second, but that second was enough to set off alarm bells in my mind. "It was just really warm last night, you know? I thought maybe if I changed, I'd cool down a bit, but I got tired and decided to just lie down for a bit." I frowned, trying to process her words. We had air conditioning, and it was always at a comfortable temperature. In fact, she'd often tell me she felt cold during the night, so this didn't add up. "You sure you're okay?" I pressed, feeling a strange knot of worry forming in my stomach. She forced a laugh, her eyes darting away for a second. "Yeah, just one of those nights, I guess. You know me, always overthinking stuff." I wanted to believe her, really I did. And maybe if it had been any other day, I would have just taken her word for it and moved on. But something, some gut feeling, told me this was just the tip of the iceberg. For a moment, we just looked at each other. There was a tension in the air, one I couldn't quite put my finger on. But instead of pushing further, I decided to let it go, thinking maybe I was just overreacting. "All right," I said slowly. "Just let me know if something's up, okay?" She nodded, giving me a weak smile. "Always." I turned back around, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. My gut told me something was off, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. Oh, how I wish I had listened to that nagging feeling. Edit. Wow, didn't expect this to blow up. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. We'll update soon. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon. Work had been grueling that day, so I decided to take a break at my favorite downtown Chicago cafe, Bean and Whistle. The cozy ambiance and top-tier coffee always managed to soothe my mind, even on the worst days. Grabbing a corner seat by the window, I settled down with my laptop, a steaming mug of cappuccino, and a blueberry muffin. The warm, rich aroma filled my senses, and I felt the stress melting away. That is, until I overheard the conversation. The cafe was relatively quiet, with just a few other patrons around, their murmured conversations creating a soft background hum. But 2 tables away, a couple of guys were in a deep discussion, their voices a bit too loud for the setting. I tried to focus on my work, but the name Serafina caught my ear. That's not exactly a common name, and it immediately piqued my interest. "I'm telling you, man, Drax and Serafina have been sneaking around at night," one guy, with a scruffy beard and glasses, was saying. His friend, a taller dude with tattoos peeking out from under his shirt sleeve, laughed. "Man, if anyone found out, there'd be some serious drama." Scruffy beard leaned in. "I mean, I couldn't believe it either, but my buddy saw them at Moonlit Lagoon last week, all cozy and stuff." I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My heart raced, and my palms started to sweat. The name, the mention of secret meetings. It was too much to be a coincidence. But then, what were the odds? Chicago was a big city after all. Maybe there was another Serafina out there, involved with someone named Drax. Trying to calm myself down, I took a deep breath and mustered up the courage to approach them. "Hey, sorry to intrude," I began, trying to keep my voice casual. "But I couldn't help but overhear you talking about Serafina. Mind if I ask how you know her?" Both guys looked up, surprised. Scruffy beard raised an eyebrow. "Why? Who's asking?" "My wife's name is Serafina," I replied, trying to keep the trembling out of my voice. "Just curious." Tattoo guy snorted. "Small world, huh? But bro, there are probably tons of Serafinas in Chicago. Don't think too much about it." "Yeah, man," Scruffy beard added. "And besides, the Serafina we're talking about is into some artsy stuff like painting or something." "Does that sound like your wife?" Trying to put on a brave face, I laughed it off. "Nope, not at all. My Serafina can't even draw a stick figure. Thanks, guys." Returning to my table, I tried to shake off the unease, but it clung to me like a second skin. I wanted to believe it was a different Serafina, but a nagging doubt had settled in my heart. The events of the morning and this random cafe conversation were too coincidental, and the storm clouds of suspicion began to gather in my mind. Edit. Seriously, this week has been a roller coaster. Thanks for sticking around, folks. I'm still processing everything. We'll keep you updated. I've always been a man of logic, the kind who needs evidence before making any decisions. And that's what led me to our home's security system late that night. The uncertainty, the nagging doubts. I had to put them to rest, either to confirm my worst fears or to clear my wife's name. I told myself it would give me peace of mind. Booting up the system, I rewound the footage from the past week. Each night played out in fast-forward, familiar scenes of Serafina and me coming home from work, ordering takeout, watching movies, the usual couple stuff. But then, 2 nights ago, the scene shifted. It was around 1:30 a.m., a time when the world outside was still, and most were deep in sleep. The infrared camera caught a shadow moving towards our front door. The figure was tall, slender, wearing a cap that hid most of his face, but not enough. As he moved closer, the side profile became clearer, and my heart sank. Drax. I had seen his face once or twice in Serafina's old college photos. I never paid him much attention. To me, he was just a part of her past. But now, here he was, sneaking into my home in the dead of night. The footage showed him typing in the passcode to our front door, a passcode only family knew. The door opened, and he disappeared inside. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. The clock ticked on, turning minutes into hours, and just before dawn he emerged, looking around cautiously before slipping away into the shadows. I felt a cold numbness spread through me. The weight of the betrayal was almost too much to bear. The pieces of the puzzle now fit together in a clear, painful picture. The half-dressed morning, the overheard conversation at the cafe, and now this footage. It all pointed to the reality I was reluctant to accept. I sat there in the dark, the glow of the monitor, the only light. Feelings of sadness, anger, and disbelief waged a war inside of me. The woman I loved, the one I trusted more than anyone else, had betrayed me in the deepest way possible. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside. One thing was clear: I needed answers, and I was determined to get them. Edit. This has been the hardest thing I've ever had to write. Every moment feels surreal, like I'm in some twisted nightmare. Thanks for the outpouring of support. I never imagined sharing this here would help, but reading your comments gives me strength. More updates to come. That evening was probably the longest I'd ever endured. I paced our living room, waiting for Serafina to return from work. My mind was a hurricane of emotions, swirling with anger, pain, and a tiny glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a reasonable explanation for all this. When the front door finally opened, I took a deep breath, attempting to steady my racing heart. Serafina walked in, her usual radiant smile on her face. "Hey, love," she greeted, but her smile faded the moment she saw my expression. "Jalen, what's wrong?" Without a word, I turned on the TV and played the security footage. The color drained from her face as she watched Drax enter and then leave our house. The silence that followed was deafening. I finally spoke up, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. "Sarah, how could you?" She looked like she was on the verge of tears. "Jalen, it's not what you think. Drax is just an old friend." "An old friend who sneaks into our house in the middle of the night?" I retorted, my patience wearing thin. She took a deep breath. "He was going through a tough time and needed someone to talk to. I didn't think you'd understand, so I didn't tell you." "That's your excuse? Secrets? Lies? In our own home, Sarah?" The weight of the betrayal was suffocating. She looked hurt. "I can't believe you're accusing me of this. After all we've been through, you really think I'd do something like that?" I felt cornered. "You're turning this on me, after what I just saw." Tears streamed down her face. "I never thought I'd see the day where my own husband wouldn't trust me. Drax needed help, and I was there for him as a friend. Nothing more." The room felt like it was closing in on me. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence, the secrets, the whispers, it was all too much. "So you expect me to just accept this? To believe it was all innocent?" She sobbed. "I just wish you'd trust me." The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension and unsaid words. Here we were, two people who promised to stand by each other, now miles apart in trust and understanding. The chasm between us felt insurmountable. The following morning was a blur of emotions. I had hardly slept, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. My morning coffee had lost its flavor, every sip a bitter reminder of the turbulence in my life. I decided to get some fresh air, hoping it would clear my mind. As I stepped out onto our porch, I noticed Luna, our neighbor, anxiously waiting by her front door. Luna was an enigmatic figure in our neighborhood, known for her love for plants and her strikingly beautiful blue-gray eyes. We had exchanged pleasantries a few times, but nothing more. Seeing me, she hurried over, her usually composed demeanor replaced with one of urgency. "Jalen," she began, her voice soft. I think you should see this." She handed me a small envelope. Inside were a series of photographs, each one like a dagger to my heart. They showed Drax and Serafina together, outside my house on various nights. Their body language spoke volumes, suggesting a familiarity that went beyond mere friendship. "I noticed him visiting when you were on your business trips," Luna admitted, her eyes filled with sympathy. "I thought you should know." I struggled to find words. "Luna? Why?" She sighed. "I've been through betrayal, Jalen. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, especially not someone living right next door. You deserve the truth." Feeling a mix of gratitude and anguish, I mumbled, "Thank you, I can't believe this is happening." Luna placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Trust your instincts, Jalen, and always remember, the truth has a way of surfacing." As she walked away, her words echoed in my mind. Here was an unexpected ally in my corner, guiding me to confront the reality I had been trying to avoid. It was another week of restless nights. With each revelation, the ground beneath me felt more and more unstable. But if I was to find the whole truth, I knew I had to keep digging. Remembering an old phone Serafina discarded a while back, I decided to see if it held any clues. But my tech skills were laughable, and I needed help. Enter Zeke, my childhood friend and a wizard with electronics. Zeke had been my go-to guy for any tech-related issues, from setting up my home theater to fixing computer glitches. I trusted him, and right now I needed someone on my side. Hesitatingly, I recounted the events of the past weeks to him. Zeke listened intently, his usually jovial face replaced by a solemn expression. "Let's see what we can find," he said, taking the phone from me. Within minutes, he managed to boot it up and bypass the security lock. "Let's check the messaging apps," he suggested, and there they were, a flood of messages between Serafina and Drax. I braced myself for the worst as we started scrolling through the conversation threads. The earlier messages were casual, discussing college memories and current life updates. But as time went on, the tone shifted. They began sharing dreams, fears, and secret desires. Then came the messages that felt like punches to my gut. Drax. "Every night with you feels like a stolen moment. I wish we didn't have to hide." Serafina. "Me too. It's hard pretending, especially with Jalen. I wish things were different." Drax. "Someday, we won't have to sneak around. We can be together, openly, without any fears." Serafina. "That's the dream, Drax. Just hold on a little longer." The screen blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. Zeke put a comforting hand on my back. "I'm so sorry, man," he whispered. The messages painted a clear picture. Their relationship was deeper and more entangled than I had ever imagined. The woman I had pledged my life to was dreaming of a future with another man. Edit. I'm at a loss for words. This feels like a cruel joke. Zeke has been a pillar of support, and I'm thankful for that. But the pain of these revelations is unbearable. To everyone sharing their stories and advice, thank you. I'm processing all of this slowly. I'll keep you updated. The fallout was swift and intense. I had imagined confronting Serafina immediately, but the weight of my discovery kept me paralyzed with pain. Maybe it was that hesitation that gave her the upper hand. It began subtly. Things would be out of place around the house. Personal items disappeared and then mysteriously reappeared days later. "Jalen," she'd coo, "you're becoming so forgetful. Maybe you need to see someone, get some rest." Then came the gatherings. At family dinners or outings with friends, she'd laughingly recount tales of my supposed lapses in memory or bouts of paranoia. "You won't believe what Jalen did the other day," she'd start, her stories making me sound unhinged and delusional. One evening, I overheard her talking to her sister on the phone. "I'm really worried about Jalen," she whispered, her voice dripping with fake concern. "He's been acting so strange lately, snooping around and accusing me of the wildest things. I think he might be having a breakdown." Soon, friends and family were looking at me differently. The hushed conversations, the pitying glances. I felt like a pariah in my own life. The more she twisted reality, the more I questioned my sanity. Maybe I was wrong. Perhaps those messages were innocent. Could the late-night meetings have been harmless? Desperation led to self-doubt. The gaslighting was working. There were moments I found myself staring in the mirror, wondering if the man looking back was indeed losing his mind. The worst part? The isolation. Friends, once close, now kept their distance. Conversations were brief, punctuated with awkward silences. Family gatherings became an exercise in endurance, with Serafina playing the concerned wife to perfection. The world as I knew it had shifted. Reality became a muddled, distorted reflection, and I was trapped in the center, struggling to find my footing. The weight of it all pressed down on me daily. Every whispered conversation, every sideways glance was a cruel reminder of the place I found myself in. Lost, doubting, and increasingly isolated. But I knew deep down that I couldn't live in this state of suspended disbelief forever. The answers, whatever they were, lay buried beneath layers of deceit. Determined, I decided to dig deeper into Serafina and Drax's history. I had to know how this began. A box of Serafina's old belongings, gathering dust in the attic, became my starting point. Sifting through it felt like intruding into another life, a life I was never meant to know. Between old journals and photo albums, a picture began to emerge. There was Serafina, noticeably younger, radiant with happiness beside Drax. They were in various places: beaches, mountaintops, city streets. Their smiles spoke of deep affection. I felt the pang of jealousy, a visceral reminder of the present. Then, buried among the pages of a diary, I found a folded letter, the edges yellowed with age. It was addressed to Serafina from Drax. Hesitatingly, I began to read. Serafina, our love was never meant to be tangled in this web of family expectations and feuds. I'd give anything to be with you freely, without the shadows of our family's pasts looming over us. I still dream of the day we can be together, unburdened. Always yours, Drax. The pieces began to click into place. Further reading revealed a heartbreaking tale. Drax and Serafina had once been engaged, deeply in love, but torn apart due to a bitter family dispute. They had gone separate ways, nursing broken hearts, until their paths crossed again years later, after Serafina and I were married. The old flame, it seemed, had never died. They'd found solace in stolen moments, clinging to the memories of a love interrupted but never truly over. The realization was devastating. The foundation of my marriage was built on half-truths. The love I believed was uniquely ours was shadowed by a love story that predated our own. Edit. I'm shattered. Knowing the full truth somehow hurts more than the suspicion did. I feel like I've been living in someone else's love story, playing a part I never auditioned for. Thank you for being my sounding board, Reddit. Without you, I'd truly be alone in this. The house seemed eerily silent as I waited for Serafina to return from work. The emotions within me boiled, a mix of pain, anger, betrayal, and a fierce determination to face the truth head-on. She walked in, the clack of her heels on the wooden floor echoing through the hallway. Our eyes met, and the tension was palpable. Without uttering a word, I laid out the evidence before her. The photos, the messages, the letter from Drax. She scanned them briefly, then met my gaze with an icy, emotionless stare. There was no hint of the woman I once knew, the woman I'd pledged my heart to. This was someone else. You've been busy, she remarked, her voice dripping with disdain. Why, Serafina? Why all of this? Was there ever any truth to our love? To our life together? She let out a derisive chuckle. You? You were the safe choice, Jalen. Steady, reliable, predictable. But passion? Love? Those were always reserved for Drax. You were just convenient. Her words were like sharp daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. My mind raced, trying to grapple with the cruelty of her confession. So, all those years, our memories, the vows, all lies? I asked, my voice shaking. She shrugged. Sometimes we make choices out of necessity, not desire. I felt a rush of anger, my vision blurring with tears. I deserved the truth, Serafina. I deserved love, genuine love, not this twisted game you've been playing. She smirked. Life isn't fair, Jalen. You played your part and I played mine. It's time to move on. The coldness in her ease, the lack of remorse, it all hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't the Serafina I fell in love with, or maybe I'd never really known her at all. Leaving Chicago wasn't a fresh start. It was an attempt to escape the constant reminders of betrayal that seemed to lurk in every corner. I found myself on a highway heading to Seattle, not because it beckoned with promise, but because it was distant and unfamiliar. Each mile was a step away from what was, but not necessarily towards anything better. Seattle's gray skies did little to lift my spirits. Instead, they reflected the turmoil inside. I rented a small, dim-lit apartment away from the heart of the city. Its cold, undecorated walls mirrored the emptiness I felt. No warm welcome, just a space devoid of memories. I avoided contact as much as possible. The outside world seemed to move in vibrant colors while my existence faded into shades of gray. The laughter and joy of strangers felt alien, almost mocking. Meals were mechanical, Eat to live, not live to eat. Sleep, when it came, was filled with dreams of confrontation, of seeking answers, of waking up to find it was all a nightmare. But each morning, reality reasserted itself with a cruelty that was unyielding. The faces at the local convenience store, the bus driver, the few coworkers I interacted with, they all became blurred images in the background of a life that felt more like mere existence. Connection seemed pointless. After all, the deepest connection I'd ever had was built on deception. Days turned into weeks, then months. The pain didn't fade. It merely settled, like a shadow I couldn't shake off. I stopped trying to outrun it, instead surrendering to its omnipresence. Edit. I wish I could tell you all that things got better, that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. But truth be told, right now, it feels never-ending. I read every message, every piece of advice, and while I appreciate them, the void remains. Thank you for listening, Reddit.